Hello and welcome to the first lecture of Philosophy of Science. Philosophy of Science or Introduction to Philosophy of Science is a course which subject code is PCE 3142 and the LTP structure is 300. That means we will be only having lectures and we do not have any lab or something like that. We will also not have any tutorial. Uh, this is an open elective course, not a very popular open elective course, but definitely students do go on to take. An open elective course for BTech students as well as for MScs, MTechs, as well as it can be taken by the School of Business as well as Architecture. So it is quite an open elective in every sense. Now, what is it which you have to do in this course is something which we will talk about in this lecture. So, before we start with what are the contents of the course, allow me to tell you what is going to be the examination pattern, because that is something which should be very clear in your mind before you opt for this course. Now, what happens in this course? We have mostly theoretical, I will say, course content, right? So it is related to science for sure, but it is philosophy of science. So it is something from a philosophical perspective, right? Now, how to see or how to understand this course and the things which are expected. Like as any examination, we also have the minor 1 examination, the minor 2 examination, and the major examination. And we have presentation. Now, given the environment of COVID, I do not know how many minor examinations can be conducted. It may happen that there will be one minor examination. It can also happen that there will be no minor examination and only presentations. So I roughly have chalked out a plan where there will be at least 4 presentations. Okay, so 4 presentations of at least 5 marks each. So that will make it like the presentations value will be going to 20. This is the least value which I am talking about. The major examination is definitely going to be 50 and rest all will be dependent over here. It may happen that this will be only of 20 marks. Okay, so in that case this will be of 30 marks. So this is quite a chance. In that case there will be more presentations, or we can keep the presentations of higher and lower denominations. That means that there can be a couple of presentations which are of 10 marks each, and there can be a couple of presentations which is of 5 marks each. So that will make it 30. Now, what are the expectations in the presentation? So, first thing first, allow me to tell you that how you need to make the presentation and how you need to present. Usually, I have found that students find it difficult to present, or even if they know something, but they find it difficult to express. So, if you are a student like that, that means that you have problems with your expression and so on. So, it is honestly speaking, this course may not be the course for you. Okay, but if you are confident and if you feel quite comfortable with your presentation skills and so on, or if you feel like that you can pick up in next 3.5, 4 months, so there is absolutely no problem with this subject. Now let me tell you what are the course thing, or what are the course what are the contents of the course. Right now, content of the course, I will share uh, the lecture plan with you on Moodle, so you can line by line and side by side see everything what is there in the course. We keep around 35 to 40 lectures in this course. So one thing very good about this course is that this is a short course. This is not a very long course, rather you will find it to be shorter in length, right? So we can finish the whole, like in normal usual classes, usually the kind of courses which we take, we conduct around 42 to 45 classes per course of a 3 credit course, but in this we conduct around 35 to 40, so it is a little bit less. So this is one advantage of this course, and definitely it's an advantage because the course is a little bit short by nature. Now, what are the things which we cover in this course? So let us try to understand. First, what is science? Now, allow me to tell you that usually the understanding of science as we have may have to go for a change, right? So what is science and how science functions or work is a theoretical enterprise and is also a philosophical enterprise, and we need to understand, does science change with time? This is another question, because as you must be aware of, that there was a concept called flat earth, right? And then the Copernicus revolution took place, and we then started believing in the spherical earth concept, right? So the science of that day and the science of today has changed. Second, many of you must be aware of something called quantum mechanics or quantum physics, right? And the principles of quantum mechanics or quantum physics are vis-a-vis very much contradictory and contrary to modern physics, right? Now, which one of them is true? Because both of them cannot be true together, and how this reconciliation takes place. So this is also something which we will be discussing. Then it's not only about, say, physics or say biology or say other sciences which we will be talking about. We will go into the core philosophical issues like what is logical positivism, what is logical empiricism, what is rationalism, what is empiricism, right? What is realism, what is even I forget sometimes, what is uh, idealism. Usually we know these words, or we feel like that we know these words, but many a times we do not have a clear cut understanding of these things. So we go and dig into the history to find out that how sciences have changed, how the philosophical enterprises have pursued or have understood sciences, and what is its understanding, how clear we are with this understanding, that what is it which makes something a science, and how it is different from superstition for that matter, or how it is different from humanities for that matter, or social science for that matter. And the expansion of science into technology, so how technology is different from science, right? So all this understanding needs to be taken place, and need to be taken care of, and this is usually going to be the first part of the course. So I will keep that as what is science. Then there are many philosophers of science and their contribution. Philosophers of science and their contribution came from the mid of the 20th century. That means this concept has taken currency in 1950s and so on, right? So in the mid of the 20th century, these concepts came, and these concepts became very, very popular precisely because of two philosophers, two very important philosophers of science, whom we will study in detail. The first one is Karl Popper, and the second one is Thomas Kuhn. So we will study their theories, the principles to which they have they actually worked on philosophy of science, and they told us about a lot of concepts, and usually people have a lot of misunderstanding about few concepts, right? And those concepts are clarified with detailed analysis, so they went for those detailed analysis. And these are not only two philosophers of science whom we will be discussing. There are more philosophers of science, like for that matter Paul Feyerabend, or like Imre Lakatos, or Laudon, and so on. So we will be discussing about each and every important philosopher of science in this course and their contribution to science. So usually if you see, so there is this, what is science and the whole of the philosophical enterprise, then the philosophers of science, the most important philosophers of science, which we will be dealing in the second part, and then third part, some few lesser known but important theories is something which we will be discussing in the third part. So the syllabus is pretty simple. Now allow me to tell you something more important about it, that how you are going to give your presentations, because this is going to be a very important thing for you. I am going to tell you about the philosophical approach through which we study this science, right? What you need to do, if you are a student of computer science, you need to apply the theories of philosophy of science to computer science. If you are a student of physics, you need to apply the theories of philosophy of science to a concept of physics. If you are a student of, say, biotechnology, so you need to apply the theory of philosophy of science to biotechnology. This is how your presentation has to come. I do not accept any presentation on something which is already there in the book. It has to be something novel. You need to find something. We will be discussing about a lot of concepts. We will not only discuss about a lot of concepts, we will also see those concepts and its application. For that matter, let me give you an example. There is a concept called paradigm shift. Paradigm shift is a concept which has been made popular by Thomas Kuhn, right? Now, what does it roughly means? Paradigm shift roughly means that when there are change of parameters in, say, judging something, like what is it which we judge? Like suppose if we take an example of mobile phones. So I do not know from when you have started using mobile phones, but I was pretty young at that point of time when the mobile revolution came and people used mobile phones with, I guess so, 9, 10, 11 buttons, right? So you must be aware of these kind of mobile phones, right? Like this, with 9 buttons here, and there was one button here, and there was a screen here, right? So this was the first kind of, and there was an antenna over here, right? Because for connection you need this antenna as well, or else the mobile will not catch the signal. Now this was the first prototype of mobile phone and people were interested in using this because the parameter at that point of time was mobile connectivity, or I can keep the phone in my pocket and go here and there and still can talk to people. Then slowly and slowly this screen started becoming colored, right? Beforehand it was a black and white screen, like the old calculator screen. Okay, so one paradigm shift was there, or it was not a paradigm shift, it was just an innovation, right? So from black and white screen to colored screen, I will call it not a paradigm shift, but it was just an innovation. An innovation and some new aspects which were added. Fine. Then slowly and slowly what came? Say the QWERTY came. Now QWERTY was having a lot of things, because here the black and white screen changed to color. Then the monotonic phones turned into polyphonic phones. Then it turned into stereophonic phones, right? So you can download a song and that song can be your ringtone, right? So all these things happened, and it happened in this line. Then came QWERTY with this kind of phone, right? Here the screen, and there were so many buttons, because here in one button there were 5 letters, sometimes 4 letters definitely. Here each were having a letter, so you can type very easily, right? And usually people used to use phone like this, right? So this was a paradigm shift. There was a change. Then what came? Then came the flip phones, right? So here there is a flip phone, not like the Samsung one which has come. Here it was screen, complete screen, and here there was the keyboard, right? So this kind of phones came. Now this provided with what? The screen has been enlarged, right? So we had an enlarged screen. Now you can see from here to this QWERTY there was a paradigm shift. Why we are saying it's a paradigm shift? Because now we are no more typing one letter, or say 4 letters with one key. We were having a dedicated key for everything. Then we increase the size of the screen. Till this place, also, if suppose somebody believes that there was no paradigm shift, there was no change. So the modern phone came like this. Every phone looks like this, right? And there is no key at all. This was gone, keys were gone, the screen and keys were gone, and a completely touchscreen mobile came. Now, this is what we call as a paradigm shift. Now, the paradigm has shifted. The paradigm is not having keys. This was Nokia, and it was marketed, and it was also very popular phone at that point of time. BlackBerry came. Hmm? So many phones came with this kind of understanding. Nokia also came here. Nokia was also a popular phone here. And this is the era of Samsung and Apple for that matter. So, what has happened? The paradigm has completely shifted. Now, this is one way of understanding a paradigm. That first, the paradigm was to connect, to keep a phone in your pocket so that even if you are not at your place, not at your home, not in your office, still you can pick up a call of somebody who has called you, right? Then slowly and slowly, it was not about the phone call, it was more about the technology which can be embedded in, right? So the parameter became that we have convergence of technologies. We can watch videos, we can listen to music, we can browse internet. These were possible here as well, but here it's even better, right? And especially for movies and all these things, or for videos, these kind of phones are better. Now, where we are fighting or where people are competing, we are competing on the camera, right? So these things, you understand that these are small paradigms, small parameters on which people work. There is another example of paradigm shift, or not paradigm shift as such, rather than alternate paradigms. Like there is something called fuel efficient car, like cars which are less than a million. Say the cost of those is less than 1 million in India. Are cars usually which targets fuel efficiency, है ना? 10 लाख से नीचे की कार मतलब कि 18, 20, 22 का एवरेज दे रही है, and we are very happy to purchase those things because we see it like, so, okay, I will put a couple of lakhs more in my car, so I will get a diesel variant, so the fuel economy will come down. Then in diesel variant I will always have high fuel efficiency, right? So that will also help me, because if I am investing 2 lakh rupees more, so in 3 years I will get the returns, right? The petrol variant will be expensive, sorry, it will be cheaper, but then the petrol will be higher, and also it will not give me that amount of average. Now think of people who purchase car more than 1.5 million or more than 2 million, like 20 lakh se upar wali car. Now what will happen with that? People do not purchase those car for that, okay, these are fuel efficient car. They want it for some other purpose. Either it is their status symbol, or they are fast cars, they are more luxurious by nature, and so on. So those are competing paradigms. Luxury and fuel efficiency are different paradigms altogether. You do not compare luxury with, say, fuel efficiency. So if you compare a fuel efficient car with a luxurious car, like if you say compare a Maruti Ciaz or Ciaz with say BMW or Mercedes, so there is no comparison, right? So those things also need to be understood, which we call as incommensurability, right? In very layman understanding, it will be incomparability, that we cannot compare them. So similarly, many a times in philosophy of science and in the rest of the world, in the era of philosophy, what has happened is, or in the science understanding, what has happened is that people have compared two theories which were not comparable, or even if they were comparable, but they were not commensurable, right? They were incommensurable by nature. So what is it and why they were incommensurable and so on needs to be understood. So this subject is definitely going to be a very interesting subject, but allow me to also tell you one thing, that this subject is also going to be a very challenging subject. Challenging precisely because irrespective of the fact that how good you are with these concepts and you understand, you study, and you can write very good answers, the first thing is that your presentation will matter. You know everything, I understand, but if you are not able to present, I cannot give you marks. So this is the first thing. Second thing, you are very good at philosophy of science. From a philosophical point of view, it will hardly matter. It will matter, but very less. If you are very good at philosophy of science from your own subject's understanding, then it will matter more. That means that if you can apply the theories of philosophy of science to the theories in your own subject, then it will be a very fruitful venture for you, as well as the marks and everything will be also important. So that was all from my side for this introductory lecture. When we will meet next time, we will start with the introduction of this subject. Thank you.